the events to start with, where I can vividly remember, which I can say turned everything around. It's when I was about 13 years when I lost my parents. Honestly, from that day when I lost both parents in somewhere around 1996, everything changed. Like the scope of my life, yakabva changed totally. Because that's when I started experiencing something new that I never knew it existed. The things like the deep, that deep poverty which you might think
Okay.
was just a good team. Maybe sometimes zvinhu zvinoratidzwa pamawebsites evamwe vanotaura
Mhm.
poverty. So that's when I experienced that, and it was series and series and series and series of events, which I believe turned out to create the man whom I am today.
Or losing parents at a tender age is very painful. Sometimes it's very traumatic. How did you manage to heal from those traumas?
It's a matter of just accepting that it's in this was you just have to accept it. That's how it is. Then maybe through talking. Unfortunately, in my case, I never had an opportunity to discuss much about what I went through until in 2020 when I wrote the book. I think that was my first time to open up and maybe share those experiences in public. One or the other, I think it was also a healing process for me because that's when I now accept and say, okay, this is what happened, this is what I went through. But during the course of the time, I mean, from 13 years maybe to up to 19 years, because I started working down in 19 years. Pakati pesapa, I was just seeing events, and I was trying to work around for survival. Saka tango zvinoita ipapo. Any situation yauya, then I figure out how can I go about it without mentorship or guidance. So yeah, it was quite a bit a challenge. Yes.
Now that you are older, do you have moments where those traumatic experience knock at your doorstep, and how do you react if that is the case?
I would not say there are times where those struggles knock at me in a negative way. Because now what is happening, I learned that everything that I fought for back then as a kid, it taught me skills of how to fight for the things that I want even right now, like the courage to tackle when we talk of business. I think all my upbringing was more like a training for 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 the person I am today. Because running a company there's always one challenge after another. So sometimes when I struggle, try to balance, I relate with how I fought some situations back then, and it is now starting to make sense because I look at times like when pandakapedza chikoro ndakamboita zvekutengesa pamusika, saka I was selling groundnuts nzungunyoro dzakakangwa dzedzi, and when I finished my school I was quite very short, saka waiti ukasvika paipa uchitengesa unenge wakasenga dhishi renzunga rakashama pamusoro, and then vakomana vepamagrosary mamonya uye vachida kuzama kunokora kuti vadye. So in my case that was not happening because I would fight for my things. And we may take it as a small thing, but that courage Peter stood up and safeguard your small stock yenzongo kana kuti yechibage. Now sometimes we come across such situations where people are trying to take advantage of your business. So that fight instinct which grew back then, I think still kicking and
Okay, let's talk about your background. What was it like after losing your parents at a tender age? What happened next? Take us through your where did you go to high school? What was the situation like? And what was your job, your first job?
Okay, it's series and series that happened soon after we lost our parents. It's supposed to some family we have a take.
Oh,
Then, fortunately enough, other siblings were taken, name relatives. For some reasons that I don't know. I'm the only guy who was left at all. Like Musha, at that tender age. So I started to fend for myself at a very tender age. By that age of 13 years, and after now, right, chikafu chekubika pamba, ndinochera mvura yekubikisa, maplates asupa, like just taking care of
You was left alone.
Yeah, I was
okay,
alone.
continue.
And then the issue of going to school, and then even issue yekutya kurara usiku. Imagine siwa pamusha nedzimba dzakati one day and you're just alone, and you have to spend the whole night alone, wake up, kuita mabasa kuenda kuchikoro, wodzoka pamba. So that was some of the toughest things. And then
So let me cut you there. Did you ask your relatives that what were their reasons why they left you alone?
you mean like now?
Back
then, there was no one to ask, because the way how it happened, I didn't know that I was already left alone, because you know what happened after between our parents, our mother is the one who passed on first, and then immediately after she departed, the smallest children, vanina vangu vakatorana namaiguru, vakatorana namaiguru, vamwe vakatorwa nabamnini, vamwe vakatorwa navatete. Then later, because that was in May, same year in October, mudhara chibva vazoita pasone so, and then vanga vati kure vavo ndokwandiri vakangobva vasonaenda unotsvaka mabasa. Saka it didn't actually happen in a single day kuti taakutora vanhu. So these are the events that were happening. Unfortunately, I didn't find myself remaining alone, and at some point I didn't pick it that I'm left here. There's a time I was also thinking that maybe one of the relatives will come and take me, or shades or quartet. But as time goes on, I'm still going to the same school. I was Form 1, Form 2, Form 3 until I finished Form 4. So yeah, those are the events that happened. And why I was left.
But now, what's your relationship with your relatives?
No, we are so good.
I don't bitter.
Not at all.
But have you ever been in that situation where you was like, no, I want to prove them. They left me alone. I want to achieve this so that they will see me.
Unfortunately, I never took that route. Because what happened now, I was trying to explain to him. After you lose parents, panika simba empathy kanoitika nevanhu vomunharaunda zvokunzira vana urombo kuti masiwa musina vabereki, this and that. Saka unombotanga uchinjoya that pardon, do you want to correct something?
No, continue.
Okay, so unombotanga uchinzirwa tsitsi, and then you get that comfort. Vanhu vemuraini vachiti kana chero kanzi hauna chekudya unombokupa vombodi. So what happened now ipapo ndezvekuti at some point ndakabva ndaita feel comfort to that, and I was now relying to handouts until at certain time when now vanhu vakuona kuti enough it's enough. Of course vanhu vanochema, but waramba uchichema, you don't mourn forever. So there's a time yekuti waizoona kuti maybe when otrenda kuma next days wakushandiswa basa riri so heavy, it's like you're working for food, and sometimes you go try to use the same trick kuti ndipo chikafu unoona kuti hapasina chiri kubuda. So that's the only point where, you know, I remember one incident yakaita turn around. Kandaita about 3 days ndisina chikafu, ndisina food. So funny, let me not give too much details because people will know who I'm referring to. Saka pana neighbor, ndakaenda kumba kweneighbor, ndakaona vakaisa sadza rinofanira ranga rasara manheru pamapiwa epachoto pepe. So I then asked for that food. Kwavari maybe vanaizokutika kuti zvinorevei kwandiri. I didn't care kuti sadza rine usaviri, but because raragarisa riri pamapiwa unozoti ranga raomera rakachingwa making. So for me it was enough because it was almost 3 days ndisina chandacho. So musi what happened, I remember it was almost around December. Tatatovara chikoro. Ndichiri Form 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was because mudhara akasvika muna October, saka tiri to October, November, early December. So mashoko andakaudzwa ipapo aiva magaramo just because of that. Saka ndakabva ndazofunga kuti if I need to rely on this lifestyle, I won't survive. So I think that's the day where I turn around almost everything, and that turn around the whole situation of my life to this day. Because I remember ndakabva ipapo ndakaenda kumba ndikafila kuti of course that's when I felt the pain of not having parents or not having any elder person to guide and take care of you if you don't have parents. Saka musi uchacho ndakabva ndati nini maybe it's high time I should wait. Because zvinhu zvakuenda ndakukwanisa kuti ndikaenda ndichikumbira ndichapivise zvandaitwa pakutanga because in October because mudara akashayanda kwakuna na 18 some around 18 October somewhere. Saka in the month of October it was okay. November but vanhu vanenge voenda vachitaka kujairira kuti chitongoona kuti woita sei. So in December ndoba ndakazoti nini after that incident ngati no imagine uri kunzwa nzara and you have nothing to eat. Ndakaenda kune another farmer aisakurisa. I think line reach back because waisakura according to my lines. I think line yekusakura ita almost about 50 cents somewhere around there. I went there and worked left, right, center. I still remember patakazonotsa towards Christmas ndanga ndaone a significant figure yaitori I think ndanda almost $12. So with that money it was enough for the first time in my entire life. I bought a chicken for Christmas.
Wow.
And the whole entire chicken was to myself. I eat the whole chicken alone. So I think that's what I can say as a kid, as a 30-year-old boy, was my greatest first achievement. Because imagine a point of asking for food from people, can I even start that's now serving? And then now for the first time, you have the whole entire chicken to yourself. So it's something that I really, those are the events that I remember. So then what happened, just to cut the story short, Maria ndakasakurira ndakasakurira and we spend I spent some on Christmas. I also bought myself some clothes. And then anamufani vana vamwe. And then Maria kasara ndakabva ndati patakanovhura ichitanga form 2. Ndaiorder masweets. Chinotengeswa chikoro. Choorder masweets chinotengeswa chikoro. So ndakabva ndatongozogara and ngati since that day I don't remember kuti ndakambozoti ndina mari to this day. Saka yakabva yaita a system ndakabva ndazvidzidzisa kuti no I have to work, I have to do something to get money, and then I use that money wisely.
Well, during that period, have you ever thought that you would become this successful?
Funny enough, it was more like a prophecy. Pandenotengesa nzungu nechibage, and then animadzimai emuraini. I think that about 4 or 5. Saka taenda tese, and these ladies are still there as we speak. Sometimes they went home and with me. And I would tell them stories that, what I know for sure is one day I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to employ a lot of people. I'm going to buy so many vehicles. I'm going to be all over in the newspapers, in the TVs. So these ladies, they would encourage me, say, yes, it's very possible. Keep on. But to them, they would say, keep on selling, save money, go to school. So later, maybe in our conversation, I'll tell you more about how I ended up in Botswana. So Botswana ndo ndakazonofudza mombe. And then tatichifudza mombe ne some colleagues. I would tell them the same story. I had that so strong conviction that one day I would do something related to business, and I just loved construction. To an extent, these guys vakanga vasingachadi kunzwa nyaya dzamudzi vako vapota yompani yoroti hauna kana bhutsu hauna kana anything. We are going
to talk about that experience. Now, let's talk about your first job. What was it, and what are the major lessons that job has taught you?
My first job, I was hired as a head, but that is after some series of selling when I was still in Zimbabwe.
Oh.
And then
so your first